His name is Paul Teleky, and he is also a vow maximalist. The word maximalist is actually perfect for him because he's the tallest guy I know. I love it, and I love it. And he's the head of markets and liquidity of VOW. After he completed his MBA, he began his career as a derivatives broker. You have to explain to me what that means. And banker in London and New York. After several successful years in the industry, Paul joined with Bish to begin building an enigmatic smile and VOW from its inception. That means these brains work together and create together. He is dedicated to everything that VOW stands for and is passionately committed to the mission of decentralization. Welcome on stage with the warmest, most energetic applause, Paul Teleky.
Wow. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me? What an incredible performance and very tough to follow indeed. And I'm a little bit upset. I didn't know there was going to be a dance routine. Now I can't do my dance routine. So maybe I'll just stick to the presentation. I know that's why you came, but it's rude to do 2 dance performances in a row, so let's just go with the presentation then. VowUP Part 2. Okay? And that's very fortunate because it has the V sign. And I'm so happy to be on stage to be speaking with you. I see a lot of familiar faces from Frankfurt. It's good. But I see a lot of new faces, which is even better because we're growing. And it's also good to be in Munich because this city is known for industry, for its innovation, for its startups, its technology. But I don't know if you knew, it's also very famous for its contribution to liquidity. Did you know this? Did you guys know this? It's also known as Oktoberfest. Yes, yes. It's a very good kind of liquidity. Here we can see Mr. Oliver Strumpfel, I believe. Oliver, are you here tonight? No, because he's a Guinness World Record holder. He actually carried 50 meters, 31 steins of beer. Only 29 were delivered because he spilled some. He probably drank half of them. But hats off to him. He's a legend. I call him a very serious liquidity provider. That's what I think he is. And if you go drinking, sit at his desk. Yeah. And I also have personal relationships with Munich. My grandfather lived and worked here. And I also did some research into your liquidity as a university student. The best beers and the greatest Oktoberfest. And I will continue to honor that tradition. But we're not here to talk about this type of liquidity, are we? We're here to talk about this type of liquidity, the cryptocurrency kind. And there is a little rocket ship ready to take off. As you can see, the passenger, VOW, that's us. So, my mission here today is to sort of weave together all these strands of stories that you have heard from all the other speakers. Because you're hearing use cases, you're hearing what's happening, but what does it mean for you as a VOW holder? What does it mean for you as a member of the community? And basically, why is VOW doing what it's doing? Why are we so dedicated, almost fanatically, but not in a way where we will be institutionalized to this mission? Okay? That's what I would like to do here today. But before I get into that, I would like to create a frame and step back a little bit so that you understand the story a little bit from a higher perspective. And that frame is behind me on the screen at the moment. It's a wonderful image with an example of fiat currency, the US dollar. And ironically, this piece of fiat currency, the dollar, could be argued, has more value as art than anything else. Why do I say that? Because maybe the more informed about financial decisions among you in the crowd may already know that in 2020, the March of 2020, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve reduced the reserve requirements for depository institutions to a very round number, 0. Therefore, the backing behind this particular unit of currency is nothing, 0, zip, zilch. It is printed out of not even thin air because it's not printed. The vast majority of it is digital. Now, that's no surprise because a central bank like the Federal Reserve has been intervening in and making fantastic decisions like this one for a very, very long time. And now let's look at history. Since the beginning of the 1900s, and this is, by the way, data from the Fed itself, this is their report card. This is with which they present to us their past performance in a very proud manner. And can you imagine? Does that look like a solid asset that you would want to put your money into? Since the beginning, they have delivered fantastic results of 97%, unfortunately to the negative. It's really good. And when I talk about this to people, they go, oh, yeah, it's the currency system, it's the monetary system, central banks, 2% inflation every year, as if it was some sort of inevitable consequence of a monetary system, as if it was some sort of fundamental law that we can't get around. That's false. This isn't by accident. This isn't like gravity that we can't avoid it. This is, in fact, a stated policy of central banks, not just the Fed, the ECB, the Bank of England, all the Western central banks, or basically all the central banks in the world. They sit around, they go, well, how much should we take from the citizens this year? 2%, that's good, yeah, that's great. And these guys, if you look at this graph, as a citizen, as a human being with intelligence, you will be forgiven to think, maybe these guys are not the smartest guys, or maybe they're a little bit careless, or maybe they're acting like these three geniuses, okay? Maybe that's what they're doing, okay? They're managing our liquidity, but not very well, not very well. Oh my God, because what are we looking at here, ladies and gentlemen? What is it that we're looking at? Right? What we're looking at here is the bankers, the academics, the politicians, and their policy decisions. Yeah. That's what we're looking at. It's unfortunate, and our problem is we're in the pool with them. That's our problem. And if it goes wrong, we get a shock of a lifetime, a very bad shock. And these guys, you know what they did? They went to the same school. They read from the same book. They're studying under the same professor. And they're agreeing with each other. Yeah. Echo chamber. What are we doing? Printing money. Oh, okay. And now, printing money. That's all they could do. So, it's not a good situation. I'm sure you can agree. However, that's not it. These guys are also creating bubbles. Not the fun jacuzzi kind. No. These guys are creating asset bubbles in this pool of liquidity that they're managing. And, ladies and gentlemen, these bubbles are becoming bigger and bigger. Let's just investigate. In 1998, if you were fortunate enough to be around then, in 1998, there was a hedge fund called Long-Term Capital Management. It was the biggest hedge fund in the world, and they had massive positions. And unfortunately, a bubble burst, and they were about to take the entire financial system down with them. What happened? Long-term capital management was rescued. By whom? By Wall Street. A group of banks got together and they said, well, we must save long-term capital management. Why? Because are they Santa Claus? Is it a charity? No. Because the positions long-term capital management had on its books would have destroyed Wall Street. So they gave billions and billions and billions of dollars to the geniuses, and everything was rescued. The first domino. Let's fast forward to 10 years, 2008. The same guys on Wall Street who liked a little bit of casino, they liked to gamble. But with your money, what happened? The US financial crisis. Now the same banks who just saved long-term capital management needed saving themselves. But there was too much money. Who stepped in? The central bank. TARP. Troubled Asset Relief Program, $700 billion injected to save hundreds of companies. So we went from having to save one institution to hundreds, from a few billion to now 700 billion. Now let's fast forward to the next one. I think you can see a pattern emerging here, no? 2023. Past COVID, we find ourselves in a brand new situation. Central banks are leveraged even more, and now banks are in a very, very difficult position. Why? Because they're not sound enough to weather the storm. And in fact, the stress tests that the Federal Reserve has designed to test their solvency has the assumption built into it that long-term interest rate and inflation will fall, while the exact opposite is happening. So all these banks who are saying that they're sound, of course they're sound, because the test, if they were to test for reality, everyone would fail. So let's not test them properly. So in today's time, banks are failing again. And just the first 3 American banks that failed, $550 billion of liquidity needed to be injected to rescue them. So what's going to happen in this piece of the domino? Trillions. From 2007 to now, the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve went from 2007, roughly 800 billion, to now over 8 trillion, 10x. Okay? And that's not just an American phenomenon, because public global debt from 2000 to 2022 is now over 92 trillion. It's unsustainable. That's the message. It's unsustainable and it's getting worse. Now, also, what happened this month, a historical downgrade, where Fitch has just told the Americans that your AAA-rated, fantastically strong debt rating is now AA+, because there's consequences. You can no longer continue to tell this story that if I'm in debt, I'll just borrow more. If you can't do it as an individual, why can't a government? It makes no sense. Well, I owe the bank 50 grand. Just lend me 100. It makes no sense. It's prima facie stupid. Better I say unsustainable. So, very interesting. But the question nobody asks, or not that I have met, it's a very fundamental question. Very, very important question. Every institution that's close to the Fed is getting all this money. I didn't get anything. Now, if we're not being bailed out, we're part of this society, why do we pay taxes? Why do we even pay taxes? If the central bank can print unlimited money, why do we pay taxes? The banks get money for free. Why do we pay taxes? Just tell, hey, how much do I owe? 50 grand? We'll just print it. No, you have to work for it. Ah, I see. That's interesting. Sometimes just by thinking about something from a different perspective, you get a revelation. But we know who's responsible, right? Do we know who's responsible? By hands up, do we know who's responsible? Well, I don't see a lot of hands. People maybe think I'm going to ask them, but I won't. I'm going to tell you who's responsible. We are. We're responsible, ladies and gentlemen. Because in this society, we're the citizens. We are the ones who enabled this thing to happen to us. I'm a man, you may have noticed, and I love sports, I love everything, but unfortunately, guys in my generation are more excited about a football match than this topic, and that's a problem. Now, because we are responsible, we have abdicated the #1 debate that used to be really actually debated historically about who has the right to mint value and who can keep that right. And we say, as VOW, it should be the citizens. That's it. That's our proposition. There should be no monopoly. We should have this right. It's pointless to point fingers. It's the central bank's fault. We are the ones who created this system. We voted for it. It's our fault. But because it's our fault, guess who's going to fix it? Now you can put up your hand. We will fix it. And I showed a picture of a liquidity pool with 3 geniuses. This is our liquidity pool. I'm just following up on an analogy, but as a comparison, I think this is much preferable. Here you can see a meeting of the Federal Bank Committee of VOW. Here are all the central bankers of VOW on a beach. a system built by the citizens for the citizens. Okay, that's what this is supposed to represent, as by way of an illustration of the society we wish to build. However, we need a vehicle through which we achieve our goals. It's not enough to know where we want to get to. Oh, we need to decentralize. Okay. And then what? It's a word. We need to do something. We need to build something, create something. We can't do it together. It's we. Especially after today, once we have decentralized, it's not us, that's not Bish. It's not Bish, although he's certainly lifting his fair share and more, but it's we who build it. And what VOW is helping us achieve is to deliver that dream. Now, the number one thing VOW helps us do is create utility. The whole mission of everything that you have heard here today is to create utility. We want to create a token that has maximum unlimited utility, something that approximates a currency within a market. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So here is something that I want to show you as an illustration. You're hearing the names of all these companies. You're hearing Single ID, TXI, and all the partners that we have within the ecosystem. I'm not going to get into the technical explanation of this particular graph. All I'm trying to show you is VOW isn't a token who's hoping utility will be granted to it by the crypto gods. No. This, what symbolizes and illustrates is this is a project that has been built from the ground up with a partnership and a technology stack to deliver utility to the end user. And there, the utility is symbolized by the circulation of the V currencies. Everything that you're hearing here today, all the use cases are there so that the token utility is maximized. Let me speak really quickly about what utility is. It's basically having a token that facilitates transactions, but not just on the exchanges, but in the real world. That's what the V currencies are. V euros, V dollars, V pounds, V INR, V DKK. That's the purpose. It's pointless to trade something on the crypto exchanges and you can't use it in the real world. That's what we are trying to achieve. Also, accessing products and services. We are partnering with a whole host of fantastic companies to bring the merchants into the ecosystem, because once you have that currency that facilitates transactions, you need access to goods and services. That creates utility. And of course, participation in decentralized networks, for example, TLN. Because you will understand as we progress with this project together where TLN fits in and the very important function it performs within a greater picture, okay? These are the things, real-world things, that provide utility to a token, and that's what gives it sustainability. Because hype disappears, trends go away, speculations go away, and if you don't have utility, you're telling someone, buy a token. Why? Because someone else was going to buy it at a higher price later. Oh, good idea. No. That is unsustainable. That is nothing. There's no utility. I hope we can agree on that. So here we go. Utility. And here are the use cases that you keep on hearing about, that you've heard about. First is rewards. This is the app and the suite of technologies that Barry here excellently and very eloquently delivered to you. And that represents a mass of consumers who have an economic benefit from using that app. And the merchants have an economic benefit from participating in the ecosystem. Utility. Of course, you're going to hear about travel very soon from Michael. In fact, I think he's 2 presentations away after me. But it's another massive global use case and another fantastic addition to the whole picture that VOW is. And then there's gaming. You haven't heard much about it. We wanted to do a demo, but unfortunately there isn't enough time. But V-gaming is another use case. And the whole idea here is because V currencies are not really currencies. They're not fiat currencies, they're not store of value, they're vouchers. You can have them within the gaming environment, and you can play someone to win a V currency. We have an initial application, it's called the Rock, Paper, Scissors Millionaire. So if you're a consumer, you go and swipe your card, you have some V currencies, you don't want to spend it, you can play a game, rock, paper, scissors against someone else. Now, just as by way of an illustration. And if you play 20 successive games and you win rock, paper, scissors, you could become a millionaire. But at any point, you could cash out and spend your vouchers on an iPhone, you could spend it on a car if you wish. But the whole idea here being is that we're connecting it into another massive online industry called gaming. And to create a suite of APIs, if you're playing chess, you can play somebody and win some V dollars. If now there's a kid who's playing another game online, maybe it's a racing game, he can play his friend for 10 V dollars, and if he finishes the race quicker, then he gets the V dollars. And it's just vouchers, and he can spend it. Another massive use case, just to give you an idea that everything is being built with utility in mind. And of course, DeFi and TLN, you guys understand what that is. We're creating a layer of V currency, and we're building use case after use case after use case on this industry. And now I'm about to transition on to why it's good for you. Why it's good for you as a VOW token holder. Because there's something called deflation, also known as burn in our environment. Okay? Burn is a mechanic that token projects can use that is the inverse of inflation. It's actually deflationary for VOW supply. And why is it good? Because burn has the effect of reducing VOW supply. And if you make something scarcer, the likelihood that it has greater value increases. Make sense? If something is scarcer, there's less of it, the value of it has the potential to go up. Make sense? Yes? Yes? Okay, thank you. Also, it has a deflationary mechanic. It's the complete opposite of the inflation pressure we see by the three geniuses in the pool. This is the complete opposite. And also, there's economic model alignment. There's no conflict between the token holder and the token user. It aligns those two interests, and it creates a reward mechanic, because now whoever is holding VOW itself is rewarded. And what a coincidence. We're in a room where everybody is a VOW holder. How do you benefit when someone, for example, in India, goes to buy a lovely lunch? How do you benefit? You hear the use cases. What is the exact mechanic through which this leads to the token appreciating in your wallet? That's what I'm building to so that you can understand. And this is the technical part. I hope there are some techies in here, or there are some people who are excited about this too. I'm going to walk you through this process to try to explain to you the fundamentals, one of the fundamental points of the VOW ecosystem. Merchants. We're talking about merchants who stake VOW. This is the objective. Now let's imagine there are two merchants in the ecosystem, and they distribute 100 V dollars together. Okay? Some consumers came to shop, and those consumers collected 100 V dollars. Are you with me so far? Okay, great. Now the merchants vow to accept back those 100 V dollars. So now there's the vow to accept back. Let's just say it's 50 even, just to make the numbers easy, okay? 50 plus 50 equals 100 for those of us who maybe went to school in the United States. Okay, I'm sorry. So anyway, well, because they have creative bankers there, as we have so far explained. Now, there is a burn rate. Every time you use your V dollars and you deliver that to the merchant vows to accept it back. If you spend 100 V dollars, traditionally, if a merchant accepts funds off a card, there's something called a card processing fee, and let's say it's 1%, 2%, whatever percent, they actually pay for that. In our ecosystem, there's a burn fee. The merchant doesn't keep it. If you give it 100, some of it is destroyed. To keep the math easy, I'm going to say 1%. So a payment of 100 V dollars to the merchant ends up settling as 99. Make sense? Yes? Okay, good. So after the first transaction, that means there's 1 V dollar less in the market, 1 V dollar less in circulation. That's deflationary. The V currency supply has just been reduced by 1. Now let's say, again, keeping it very simplistic, after the 10th transaction, now there is 10 times 1 is 10, 10 V dollars less in circulation. And after the 100th transaction, there is 100 V dollars less in circulation. Are you following me? Okay, good. That means if we were to total these up, the supply of V currencies in this regard is now 0 V currencies. Holy moly, I can't spend. There's less supply. But the acceptance, the vow to accept it back is still there. The merchant says, well, hang on a second. I am vowing to accept back something that isn't in circulation. Wow, what do I do now? The system is out of balance. There's a difference of 100 V dollars. Now what do we do? What do we do? Do we call a central banker? Do we trust a single individual? How much should we print, Mr. Banker? Well, $1 billion. No. We can't trust anyone, not even ourselves. What we need to trust is the consensus agreement between this whole system, which we agreed to be governing it. So what we do is we create an auction. This auction is for 100 V dollars, and anybody who has VOW can bid, because it's decentralized, it's open, and it's fair. If you have VOW in your pocket or in your wallet, now you can bid for 100 V dollars worth of expenditure in the ecosystem. And you say, you know what, I'm going to pay $83 worth of VOW. Okay, you're a bidder, but it's an open auction. Everyone with VOW gets a go. And there's someone who bids apparently 99. That wasn't supposed to be 99, it was supposed to be 89. Doesn't matter. Someone prints 83, whatever. Someone prints even higher. And VOW, more and more VOW bids come in, as many as can be. But all of a sudden, at the end, a winner is picked. Oh, it's VOW holder number 4. He's the winner. Why? Because he bid the most. The highest bidder wins. It's no surprise, that's how markets work. Which means that this individual, let's say his bid was 93, has now spent 93 VOW to win 100 V dollars, which means he has saved $7. That is 7%. Are you with me? Does it make sense? Yes? Okay, great. Now, let's summarize what's happening within the pools of liquidity. Here are the actors within this equation. There's a smart contract who's taking in the crypto and issuing it. There's a winner of an auction, VOW circulating supply, and V dollar circulating supply. So the winner of the auction who bid has now his VOW is accepted by the smart contract as the winner, and it's destroyed. It is burnt, gone, finished. Yeah? That means VOW circulating supply is reduced by $93 worth of VOW. The winner of the auction receives freshly minted V100 issued by a smart contract based on math, infallible, doesn't need to think. It just says 100's owed, 100's printed. We're auctioning 100, I'm going to print 100. It's not going to give you, sir, 110 because you're his friend. It's 100. Can't be corrupted. It's 100. Okay? Therefore, V circulating supply is increased by 100, and it's rebalanced. If we can total up the result for everybody, the winner of the auction is up 7%. He's happy, or she's happy, because they have now an additional 7% that they could spend within the ecosystem at all accepting merchants. VOW circulating supply, it's reduced, as I said, and that benefits every one of you. Therefore, if we can distill what we have just said, anybody everywhere, all across the world, gaming, shopping, DeFi, whatever use case that anybody builds, if people are using V currencies, what's happening. Because we deliver a benefit, we deliver utility, we're helping people save, we're helping a business to be more competitive, we deliver a good, we are rewarded. I think that's a just system. Does that make sense? Does it make sense? That's what that represents. And of course, as I said, the V currency circulating supply is now rebalanced because 100 is missing, now that comes back. And therefore, it's currency according to demand. It'll never be more. If it's less, it's constituted through an auction. Fantastic. Does that make sense? Okay. How much more exciting was it than the dancing? Oh my God, okay, fantastic. All right, so anyway, we go through 4 phases of development. I keep on saying utility, okay? I don't have a stutter. I like to repeat things because you know that's what's important to us, okay? So utility creates what? Demand, like I've just said. Demand creates stability for the V currencies, and that means success. These are the 4 stages of our evolution. And I don't know if you knew, maybe you're seeing some butterflies here in the event. The theme of the event was a butterfly. It's not here anymore. But the reason I'm saying that, this is the 4 stages of evolution that we go through. But coincidentally, but not so coincidentally, a butterfly also goes through 4 stages of evolution. Egg, larva, pupa, and then butterfly. So I'll speak a little bit about that. Egg, if you're looking at the entire life cycle, maybe egg is 10%. Larva could be up to even 70, 80, 90% of its life. Pupa, a few percentage points, and then it becomes a butterfly. And then it flies. Well, that's really interesting because VOW is the same. We go through these stages of development. Right now, VOW is not an egg anymore because it's been created, just like when an egg is created, but in terms of being in a larva state, we are gestating, we are growing, and we are progressing in our evolution going forward. And here's something that you should know about a butterfly. It doesn't move in the first 3 phases of its life. It's put on a plant, the egg hatches, maybe crawls around a little bit, maybe moves a few inches or meters, and its entire life in those first 3 parts through its metamorphosis. And in the last section, when it comes alive, it can fly up to 20,000 feet, 10,000 meters even, and it can fly from, for example, Canada down to Mexico, up to 5,000 kilometers in the remaining part of its life. It's working, and then it soars once it reaches its objective. It goes through hard work, it goes through these metamorphoses, but when it reaches what it's supposed to do, it does incredible things you never thought was even possible. And that's what I'm saying. If anybody doubts the journey that you're on, because they can't see it themselves, that's because when something is exponential, it always feels like you're acting too early. We as human beings, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because we think linear. But ladies and gentlemen, in 1 to 20 doublings, you're in a million. You get where I'm coming from? Does it make sense, the analogy? Once we reach that final stage, even though we're in this period of our evolution, let me just show you, even compared to last year, even we're in our larva state, just growing within our little bubble, not a butterfly soaring 10 times with respect to wallet holders compared to last year, 14 times in terms of transfers, 15 times the volume, and twice the top tier exchanges. And this is just with respect to VOW trading. What's going to happen when more and more of these apps go live? That utility is being delivered. Users, retailers, publishers, applications are going to be the data that we will feature going forward. Because what's happening right now is just building the foundation of liquidity that's going to be used later by all the use cases you've heard. So all I wanted to say is, when we become a butterfly, I hope we'll be able to fly together. I hope we'll be able to soar, but we need to work before we do that. And I hope that we can work together to build this decentralization with you. And I'm so happy that you gave me this time and your attention. And as always, I'm Paul, and I vow to change the world, and I hope you vow with us as well. Thank you very much.